Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Valpo Athletics Weekly. Brandon Vickery with you. Glad to be joined by the head coach of the Valpo baseball program, Brian Schmack, as the team has wrapped up the spring trip, finally starting to play at home and getting ready for conference play, which starts this weekend at Southern Illinois. And as we kind of think about your program this year, one thing that comes to mind to me is looking around and seeing so many familiar faces, guys that have been in your program 4 and 5 years, and kind of in a college athletics landscape where so many players go in and out of programs and transfer. Maybe how would you describe your team culture and what's led to the continuity that you've had within your program?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's by design for one, right? We want the high school kids. We want them to be here for 4 years. We don't want to have a hired gun type mentality where kids are in and out every year, right? And I think you want to build a program and not build a roster. And I think that's what we've tried to do. And it's obviously a lot more difficult in this landscape because kids can go in and out all the time. But I think you treat them well, right? You treat them with respect. I think you engage with them and you hopefully make them better, and they want to stay. And that's what we've tried to do. You're not perfect. You'll always have guys that'll be in and out for whatever reason, but you try to do that and try to make it a memorable experience for these guys for their 4 years. And that's kind of the way I think all of us as coaches operate. And it's great to see those same guys, right? It's great to see them as freshmen struggle and be or maybe even succeed, but to see them 4 years later, growing both physically, through baseball, but also mentally. And heck, Thurston's married, right? I mean, he came in and he wasn't, and he's married now, and it's a great thing to see that happen to him in his life and to be a part of it. So, we're really lucky that we are able to do it this way.
On the flip side of that, you did complement that core of program guys with some transfers this year. Tell me about the approach to recruiting the portal and kind of how you identified the guys that you brought in to add to that mix.
Yeah, I think for one, you just obviously look for needs, right? And if you have guys leave or guys graduate, and sometimes some of the younger guys aren't ready, so you kind of supplement the roster with older guys. You look for guys that have been around a little bit, guys that have had some success, guys that have pitched, right? Let's say if it's a pitcher, I think the hard part is when you recruit a kid and you see he's thrown 2 innings at maybe even a Power Five school, right? It's kind of tough to tell how he's going to be. So I think for us, we look for guys that have actually at least done it and have gotten experience. And whether that's at the D2, D3 level, we have some of those guys, or other guys that are, have graduated and are looking for that graduate type degree, at least that have innings and experience. So for us, we just want guys that are tested and not having their first opportunity to here playing college baseball, right? That makes it a little bit more difficult, but that's probably the way we do it.
One of the real individual storylines of the season has been Connor Lockwood, and he's looked like a true Valley Friday guy. And to do it coming off Tommy John surgery with such a quick turnaround, can you tell me about how that's all unfolded, how he's come back so quickly, and what stood out to you about him on the mound this season?
Yeah, how it's come back, I don't know, right? Because we've had guys that have been 12 months, and Connor was kind of at his 10-month period, and you're talking to him throughout the whole process, and how's it feel, and I mean, any hiccups, and he didn't have any. He just had no hiccups, and he was the one kind of approaching us, saying like, "Hey, I've talked to a lot of people, my parents, the doctors, about maybe trying to rush this thing up and not skip some steps, or ultimately the doctor cleared him, a month or two ago. So it was based on him, and he's such a competitor, man, right? And to your point about Fridays, and he's the ultimate Friday guy. He's the ultimate competitor, and he wants the baseball. So that played a huge part in, I think, him coming back. And we kind of have we've welcomed him with open arms, obviously, but we're a little bit hesitant, right? Because we don't want to rush him because we want to see long term. But ultimately, he's the one driving it and pushing us. And I think when he makes that decision, it's indicative of who he is, right? And he's a great guy to pitch on Fridays because he leads the rest of the staff and he shows them how it should be done. And hopefully, they're paying attention as to what he's doing. So, is he going to go out and twirl no hitters every Friday? Of course not, right? But he's at least gives us the best chance to win, and he does it the right way. So we'll take 13 or 14 more of them if possible.
Not going to ask you the cliched question about coaching your son that you've answered time and time again, but I am going to ask you about Kyle. And you talk about guys progressing from their freshman year to their senior year, their fifth year in this case, and his numbers offensively have gone up progressively each season. What have you seen from him in terms of where he was at when he came in as a freshman to where he's at as your leading hitter this season?
Yeah, I mean he's really earned it. He's really worked hard, and I think that when he came in, his body was a little bit different, right? And COVID was probably a blessing for him in one way because we faced incredible competition, right? I mean, Louisville had two big leaguers thrown against us on Friday, Saturday, and he really, I think, learned what college baseball was all about. So he got a little bit of a get out of jail free card where he could transform his body, and he was always a hard worker, and he's in the cage every day, right? And like a lot of our guys as well, he's in the cage every day, and he just wants to be good, and I think that plays a part into it, and that's how you're successful in life, and that's how you're successful in baseball, and he's really been able to be, uh, a recipient of that attitude, and it's really just paid off for him, and he's not satisfied where he's at. If you know him, whatever he's hitting, he wants to be hitting 50 points higher, right, or whatever it may be. So I think that can get him in trouble sometimes, his own worst enemy when it comes to that, but it's also what's driven him to his success. So hopefully some of the younger guys are paying attention that you need to work. It just doesn't happen. You need to make things happen. And then obviously I'm extremely happy for him as his dad, but also as a coach, because hopefully that makes us better.
This is the point in the calendar where after playing a lot of tough warm weather competition, you get the chance to play some conference games upcoming. What has to go well for you to be successful in the Missouri Valley Conference this year? Or how would you fill in the blank of it'll be a successful season for Valpo baseball if this happens?
Yeah, and I think if you look at we've had some different weekends where early on we walked a lot of guys in the first kind of weekend, right? And then we had a stretch where even versus Alabama we didn't. We threw the ball over the plate and we got beat, right? And then the next three weekends after that was pretty similar. And then you get to this past weekend, and we had walked 37 guys the first 4 weekends of the year, and decided to walk 34 in this last three games, right? So, and I think that's a direct outcome that resulted in the outcome we saw. So if we can attack and throw strikes and give ourselves a chance on the mound, then we're going to give ourselves a chance in conference play. On the offensive side, we need to have quality at bats. We need to walk, right? We need to swing at balls in the zone. When we expand and strike out a ton, we shorten the game, and we don't have the offense to allow us to only bang for or hit for 3 or 4 innings, right? I mean, we need to have 7, 8 innings where we can put the ball in play and strike out minimally. So, throwing and attacking in the strike zone and swinging at pitches in the strike zone for us will be the difference, I think, as we move forward.
There he is, the head coach of the Valpo baseball program, Brian Schmack. Again, his team starts conference play this weekend with a series at Southern Illinois. For all the latest in Valpo baseball and Valpo athletics, visit valpoathletics.com. We'll talk to you again next week on Valpo Athletics Weekly, presented by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute.